Hello and welcome back to another Magic the Gathering EDH deck tech idea. Today we are taking a look at Gornog, the Red Reaper. It is a 3 mana 2/3 with haste, cowards can't block warriors, and whenever one or more warriors you control attack a player, target creature that player controls becomes a coward. Attacking warriors you control get +X+0, where X is the number of cowards your opponents control. About his triggered ability, it is worth mentioning that this is a permanent effect, so it won't go away at the end of turn. This will allow us to play a warrior tribal that will be constantly able to attack our opponent directly, and our opponents won't be able to block with their creatures. But first of all, we are in mono red, so we need to ramp our creatures out, which is why we play cards like Scepter of Eternal Glory, a 4 mana legendary artifact, and you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color, and you can tap it to add 3 mana of any one color, but you can only activate it if you control 3 or more lands with the same name. Due to the fact that we are a mono red deck, we will most likely be playing a bunch of mountains, so it shouldn't be too hard for us to enable this. We play Felvar Stone, a 2 mana artifact, add 1 mana of any color that a land an opponent controls could produce. We play Mindstone, a 2 mana artifact, you can tap it to add 1 colorless mana, and you can pay 1 mana, tap it and sacrifice it to draw a card, which might come in handy in the late game. Let's discount our spells. We play Ruby Medallion, a 2 mana artifact, and red spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. We also play Arcane Signet, a 2 mana artifact, and you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Last but not least, we also play Throne of Eldraine, a 5 mana legendary artifact, and as it enters the battlefield, choose a color. You can tap it to add 4 mana of the chosen color, spend this mana only to cast monocolored spells of that color. For 3 mana and tapping it, draw 2 cards, spend only mana of the chosen color to activate this ability. Along the way we want to bring out a few more Anthem effects for our creatures. We play Bloodmark Mentor, a 2 mana 1/1 Goblin Warrior, and red creatures you control have first strike. Of course, if our opponent's creatures that will be cowards won't be able to block our creatures, first strike won't be needed, but this is a great creature to bring out in the early game to immediately turn our opponent's creatures into cowards. We play Lovisa Cold Eyes, a 5 mana 3/3, and each creature that's a barbarian, a warrior or a berserker gets +2/+2 and has haste. Let's play another haste enabler, Enduring Courage, a 4 mana 3/3, and whenever another creature you control enters, it gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. Furthermore, when it dies, if it was a creature, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control and it's an enchantment. To clap our opponents even harder, we play Shared Animosity, a 3 mana enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each other attacking creature that shares a creature type with it. We also play Archetype of Aggression, a 3 mana 3/2, and creatures you control have Trample, and creatures your opponents control lose Trample and can't have or gain Trample. Let's play one of our last haste enablers, Ogre Battle Driver, a 4 mana 3/3, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, that creature gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. And now let's talk about a few more warriors that can definitely win us the game. We play Combat Celebrant, a 3 mana 4/1, and if Combat Celebrant hasn't been exerted this turn, you may exert it as it attacks. When you do, untap all other creatures you control, and after this combat phase, there is an additional combat phase. For a little bit more card advantage, we play Anep Vizier of Hazoret, a 3 mana 4/2 with Trample, and you may exert Anep Vizier of Hazoret as it attacks. When you do, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. For even more impulse advantage, we play Laelia, the Blade Reforged, a 3 mana 2/2 with haste, and when it attacks, exile the top card of your library and you may play that card this turn. And furthermore, whenever 1 or more cards are put into exile from your library and or your graveyard, put a 1/1 counter on Laelia. This deck contains a bunch of impulse draw, so Laelia can grow really big really fast. We play Frontier Warmonger, a 4 mana 4/4, and whenever 1 or more creatures attack one of your opponents or planeswalker they control, those creatures gain menace until end of turn. This doesn't only count for you, it also counts for your opponents if they attack each other, so definitely keep that in mind when playing this card. We play Kargan Intimidator, a 2 mana 3/1, and cowards can't block warriors. For 1 mana, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Either it gets +1/+1 until end of turn, target creature becomes a coward until end of turn, or target warrior gains trample until end of turn. One of our strongest creatures in this deck is Morog, Fury of Akum, a 6 mana 6/6, and each creature you control gets +1/+0 for each time it has attacked this turn. It also has a land landfall mechanic, so whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if it's your main phase, there's an additional combat phase after this phase. At the beginning of combat, untap all creatures you control. We gotta make sure that we protect our game-winning creatures, so we play cards like Deflecting Sword, a 3 mana instant, and if you control a commander, you may cast a spell without paying its mana cost, and you may choose new targets for target spell or ability. If one of our opponents fires off a very big value spell, we can also copy it with cards like Wild Ricochet, a 4 mana instant, and you may choose new targets for target instant or sorcery spell. Then copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. We play Lightning Greaves, a 2 mana artifact equipment, and equipped creature is Haste and Shroud. A budget version of Deflecting Sword is Untimely Malfunction, a 2 mana instant, choose one. Either destroy target artifact, change the targets of a spell or ability with a single target, or 1 or 2 creatures can't block this turn. We play Swiftfoot Boots, a 2 mana artifact equipment, equipped creature is Hexproof and Haste. And last but not least, we also play Return the Favor, a 2 mana instant with Spree, so for 1 additional mana, copy target instant spell, sorcery spell, activated ability or triggered ability, and you may choose new targets for the copy. For an additional 1 mana, change the target of target spell or ability with a single target. You want to win more? You get it. We play Banner of Kinship, a 5 mana artifact, and as this artifact enters, choose a creature type. This artifact enters with a fellowship counter on it for each creature you control of the chosen type. Furthermore, creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1 for each fellowship counter on this artifact. Of course, we will choose warriors, as this deck is filled to the brim with warriors, and if this Anthem effect sticks around, we can definitely win in a few turns. Alright guys, these were a few cards that I will play in Gornog, the Red Reaper. Let me know which cards you would add to the deck. Make sure to check out my full deck list in the notes below. And then I would say see you in the next one. Goodbye guys.